Locked on 76ers, Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta. Joel Embiid makes a plea a lot of people were waiting to hear. We'll break that down and more in this edition of Locked on 76ers.
You are Locked on 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked on 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network out there. This particular episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code Locked On, and get $20 off your first purchase. Three huge things we got to talk about today, Keith Pompey. One is a coast game, which apparently it was last night, according to Paul George. We'll talk about what that means. Giannis Antetokounmpo news, particularly as it surrounds Tyrese Maxey and how Giannis would like to play with Tyrese one day, according to one report, and keeping it together. Joel Embiid, after last night's really come-from-behind win over the Sacramento Kings, which we'll also break down, Joel Embiid took to the microphones during his media availability and said he would like the team to not duck the tax, the luxury tax, the threshold. Sixers are currently $7 million over and would like to get under by the trade deadline, potentially going on history. And Joel Embiid says, no, let's keep it together and let's try to win. What did you make of Joel Embiid's post-game comments about that threshold, Keith?
You know what? I kind of like hearing it, man. I mean, because here's the thing, Joel is in the past. I remember we would ask Joel questions about certain people. Like I remember, I asked him about Matisse Thybulle, and he got a little bit uncomfortable. He's like, yeah, he's good, but I'm not the one who makes those decisions. And then you would ask him about other players, and they would basically say the same thing. So the fact that he came out and said, "Look, we got to keep this thing intact. We got a good team. We got fun." To me, that showed a little bit more leadership, a little bit more maturity, or basically him like, heck, I'm getting 193 at the beginning of the next year. Y'all can do whatever y'all want. I'm telling the truth, right? So I kind of liked hearing what he said, and he's real. Like, let's keep it 100. Everybody knows that in the past, the 76ers have made moves to get under the luxury tax. And what they did is they got rid of vital pieces, and they brought in other people who they told us they were part of their future. And next thing you know, they didn't re-sign them, and some of these guys didn't even make the playoff rotation. Or if they made it, they didn't stay in it, right? So for Embiid to come out and say what he said, you got to commend him, man, because he's saying the stuff that everybody is thinking. You know what I mean? And can I read what he said real quick? He said,
"Oh, go for it. Yeah, I have the call. Yeah, go for it. Go for it."
Oh, you got it? Do you got it up?
I have your article, sir, right in front of me from Inquired Up. But you let it rip, my man. You were there. You know the deal.
So he says, we've been ducking the tax the last couple of years. So hopefully we keep the same team. I love all the guys that are here. I think we got a shot. I don't know what the front office is in brackets. He said, I don't know what they are going to do. But I hope that we get a chance to go out there and compete, because we got a good group of guys in this locker room and the vibes are great. He ended up by saying, like I said in the past, we've been ducking the tax. So hopefully we think about improving, because I believe we have a chance. You got to commend them for saying that.
I love it. Absolutely. I mean, you talk about leadership, and you also speaking for what a lot of the fans feel right now. I commend him 100% on that. And when I heard those comments this morning, I didn't catch them right after the game. I caught them this morning. I thought, hell yeah, because look, I loved the Jimmy Butler very brief era here, but there were 3 different iterations, 3 different makeups of that year. And that was between Butler getting here early in the season. First off, you start out the season without him. Then you add him. Then at the deadline, you bring in Boban Marjanovic, of course, and Tobias Harris, and you got to get used to that style of play. So it was 3 different makeups of the team. And now you've talked about James Harden being here. You've talked about Ben Simmons being here and then gone, different iterations of this team. And now this team finally looks like they're playing together. They look like they have finally figured it out. You see that chemistry starting to build. To be honest, with the money they're spending and the talent they have, I'm willing to sit out the trade deadline if you're the 76ers, because I don't think any huge deal is there to truly be made in order to put this team over the proverbial hump. No, what's going to come to make you a better basketball team is this team continuing to grow, this team continuing to gel, and a guy like BJ Edgecombe continuing to get better. And, you cross your fingers that Jared McCain can be a guy to come off the bench and get you some points. Same thing with Quentin Grimes, and Andre Drummond stays here and gets you rebounds when you need them, or when you need to give Joel Embiid a break, that kind of thing. There's nobody else out there that I think the Sixers should upset the apple cart and go get based on the limited resources they have anyway at the trade deadline to try to go out there and do something. And certainly if it's just to dump money or duck the tax, Keith, I'm out. No, thank you. Keep the team together.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And what happened is yesterday, after we finished the podcast, the Enquirer published a piece that I had. It was 5 reasons the Sixers should be cautious at the NBA trade deadline. Now, initially, they wanted me to do the 5 biggest needs the Sixers need at the trade deadline. And I was like, nah, dude, they need to keep this team intact. And I was like, I think, so what we did is we switched up the topic, and it came out to the 5 reasons. And my number one reason, I'm going to read part of it to y'all, right? I said, trading a key contributor for the sake of avoiding being taxed would be a bad look for the franchise. It would give the impression that saving money for Sixers managing partner Josh Harris is more important than contending for a title. The team would come off looking cheap, especially considering that the Joel Embiid championship window is closing quickly. Now, the reason why I say Joel Embiid championship window is closing quickly, because I feel like, Maxey and Edgecombe, they still have time. But this group that they have right now with Joel Embiid and Paul George, it's closing. And this is a great opportunity for them to do it. Again, you know what? It's crazy to call them dangerous, because we looked at and we saw what happened last night, right? We saw what happened against Charlotte. We saw what happened against the Denver Nuggets B team. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're talking about a team that has who can beat the Boston Celtics, who can beat the New York Knicks, who can beat the Toronto Raptors, right? So they are a dangerous team. You just got to realize which team is going to show up. So to me, if they get underneath the luxury tax, I think they could lose some of their fan base, because the people are like, why are we spending all this money to come down and watch you guys play, when all you're doing is like getting rid of guys just so the owner can save $7 million. Now, don't get me wrong, bro. If I could save $7 million, if I had $3 million, if I had $700 I wanted to save, that's great. But we're talking about billionaires, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about a billionaire, and I think the goal is to win games, not get underneath the luxury tax all the time.
I concur. And now Josh Harris also has that NFL money in his back pocket. So don't tell me nothing there, Joshua. No, I'm with you 100%. I will ask you this question, though. Is there a guy of, between Kelly Oubre or really even Quentin Grimes? And the only reason I mentioned those numbers is because no Oubre, no Grimes essentially means you're able to get under that tax. Now, it's $7 million around that for Grimes, $8 million around that for Grimes and Kelly Oubre each. And then you're also looking at Andre Drummond at $5 million, just to name those names. Is there a name there that is expendable that would still keep the team, for the most part, intact, but also appease ownership?
No, I don't think any of these guys are expendable. I mean, I think that the 76ers thought that Andre Drummond was expendable, and I know we're going to talk more about it in the coach game thing. Yeah. But when you look at it last night, they were out-rebounded 46-24. Andre Drummond is by far the team's best rebounder. he didn't play until the beginning of the fourth quarter, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which like people were like, oh my gosh, Drummond's coming in. So if you thought he was expendable, and especially when you look and you see on the offensive boards, they were out rebound 15-2, right? Nah, that's not happening. And then you look at Kelly Oubre. He's been like the glue guy, the X factor. You know, he's a quality defender. You know, he's also like he'll knock down shots. He does whatever you need him to do on a given night. And then, you know, Quentin Grimes has been in a little bit of a rut. I know he's missed the last 2 games, you know, with injury, but he is their best shooter in the rotation. Like, and I know Eric Gordon can shoot the lights out, but he's not in the rotation. He's an older player. So of the younger players who are going to play, is Quentin is the best one who can shoot the ball. It's just a matter of him getting his rhythm back and stuff like that. So, you know, just because you go out and get a guy who can shoot does not mean they're going to shoot here, a la Buddy Hield.
Right.
Everybody thought Buddy Hield was going to be lights out. And then afterwards, Daryl Morey said that was a bad move for them by going out there and getting him.
Yeah, that one did not work out like many people pined over for so many years. Didn't work out here. I'm one of them. It didn't work out, unfortunately. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the news surrounding Giannis Antetokounmpo and apparently his admiration for Tyrese Maxey. What? Yes. He's not coming to Philly, but it's worth talking about. Also, I want to get into this post-game thing when it had to do with Paul George's phrase for how he would describe the attitude going into this game against the Kings last night. We'll talk about that and more in this edition of Locked On 76ers. Back after this. And now it's time to tell you about the Gametime app. Have you downloaded the Gametime app yet? If not, what are we doing? Come on. You need the Gametime app. When you're talking about the NBA arena, that crowd, the buzz you hear, the squeak of the sneakers, all that experience in the arena, Gametime app is what you need to put you in the arena. Pull up the Gametime app, pick an NBA game, get tickets within minutes, and you get the Gametime guarantee, knowing you're getting 100% authentic tickets every time from the Gametime app. I love seeing the all-in pricing up front, by the way, so you never get that surprise. Whoa, I thought I was getting a good deal on these tickets, and then all of a sudden they're $15 more than I thought. What is that about? Not with the Gametime app. You get the price up front, so there's no sticker shock, and you can view your seat's vantage point before you buy the tickets. So you literally take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Gametime app. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code Locked On. That's promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And don't forget about zone deals as well. You can choose the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. So again, download the Gametime app and take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets, or maybe you want to go to a game, concert, or comedy show. Gametime's got you covered. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. And let's not forget about how fantastic the Everydayer Club is, especially when we're talking about the NBA trade deadline. You've heard us talking about the Everydayer Club. Well, how about getting it for free for 1 month? The NBA trade deadline basically here next week, as a matter of fact. We want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club to help you get ready for the NBA trade deadline. Join a group chat to talk all things Sixers on Discord as well, and be a part of the Everydayer Club. You also get ad-free versions of this show, Locked On 76ers, if you sign up by the deadline on February 5th. You can use code DEADLINE to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes below to learn more and be a member of the Everydayer Club and get your first month free. LockedOn76ers.supercast.com. Report comes out yesterday, Keith, Jake Fisher. Apparently, Giannis Antetokounmpo really likes that Tyrese Maxey fella. Now, let's just get this out of the way. Do you think the 76ers have what it takes to trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Can I say the word that begins with H? But it's 2 words. The first one begins with H.
Uh-huh.
And the second one is nah.
I believe this is Philadelphia. We can get away with that.
Hell nah.
Okay, you and I are very much on the same page, And I might even use another word, but that's definitely not allowed. But anyway, second word is still no.
It begins with an F, right? French nah.
It ain't Farzetta, tell you that much. But they don't have what it takes. It's not going to happen. Okay. However, Keith. However, another H word. It is intriguing to think of Giannis Antetokounmpo playing with Tyrese Maxey. That is alluring to me, and just the idea that originally it wasn't on his short list when it came to the Timberwolves, the Heat, the Knicks, and some other squads. But Jake Fisher on his show reported that there is an intrigue from Giannis Antetokounmpo about playing with Tyrese Maxey. Apparently, he's a fan of Tyrese Maxey. Do you read anything into that might move the ball forward the littlest bit in the Giannis conversation?
Here's the weird part, because, in Philadelphia, we're all talking about this. Everywhere else, they're talking about Minnesota and the New York Knicks. Mm-hmm. I think people are like looking at it like, nah. The one thing that came out was the Sixers said, we didn't even make a phone call, or people like the Sixers didn't make a contact. So that says a lot, because I'm going to be honest with you. Whenever there's a star player who becomes available, the majority of general managers and front office people go out there and they reach out to the opposing team and say, what does it take?
Hey, what are you thinking here? Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that they didn't even make that phone call lets you know that they know they're not going to be in the sweepstakes, right? It also tells you that they have an idea, like, look, we're going to keep it. Like, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and I know me and you, we talked about this before we did the podcast, that, maybe Joel Embiid, right? You know what? You could give up Joel Embiid. Well, they would be foolish to trade for Joel Embiid right now, because
the Bucks would be foolish.
The Bucks would be. And I get it. You see Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid has been phenomenal on the offensive end, right? The last couple games. But there's always a chance that next year or the year after that, the injuries are going to continue to take a toll on him, and he's not going to be this guy. He's not going to be able to do the things that he's starting to do now, just because of father time and other things. So you go out there and you traded Giannis Antetokounmpo. You could have gotten a lot of other people, but you brought back Joel Embiid, right? And it's like, wow, we're still in the rut, because if Joel gets injured, and then who else do you have to go with Joel, right? So that's the thing. Then you look at Paul George. Okay, you can take Paul George. At this particular time, he has what's considered a negative contract, meaning it's like, he's not living up to the contract. He's just not. And I like what PG is doing. Believe me, I love the fact that he is a role player. He's going to be a facilitator. He's going to play defense. But if that's what somebody's making $50-something million a year to do, and so we're looking at Giannis, so they're making similar money. Giannis is a 2-time MVP, all-star starter, or still one of the top 5 players in the league, right? Still. And you're going to go out there and get a guy who is going to be a facilitator and play defense and probably won't make the all-star team again, right? So that's the stuff that the Sixers are dealing with. So the only 2 guys that someone on your team had, only 2 guys on your team that someone would want really, are Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, who were on the cover of Slam magazine a couple days ago. So right now they got one of the best thing going for the Sixers is their young backcourt that they're going to build around in a couple years. So you're going to have to give up one of those guys, VJ, and the trade assets that you're going to need to build around them in the future to get Giannis. So to me,
it ain't happening.
It doesn't make any sense. It's easy to understand why the 76ers didn't make that phone call.
No, I agree. No, I agree. Or shoot a text message. Really, any communication about trading Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, anything. No, I agree. I agree with you. It just comes. They're walking into a store where they can afford nothing, basically. And look, you can't, and we're not doing this, but just to reiterate what we talked about in the previous segment, you can't in the same sentence talk about keeping it together and then also trading Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like the amount of sense it makes for this team to just give it a whirl with what you got right now makes too much sense. Trying to go out there and trade for Giannis, unfortunately, the Sixers just don't have the capital to be able to pull that off. And honestly, it does feel like you're in a situation right now with Joel Embiid. And it does help that he's playing as great as he has been playing recently. But it's a matter of the sustained success and keeping up that level of play and all that. But it comes down to the question of you're just going to ride, whether or not you're just going to ride this into the sunset. You're a Joel Embiid team. You're going to be a Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey focused team for the foreseeable future until something else happens, and that something else doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. So you're kind of tied in to Joel Embiid. You're literally, in the contractual sense, married in this situation, and you ain't getting out of this anytime soon.
And here's something else, man. When are they going to stop going star hunting? Like, I mean, and I'm just saying, like for real, like,
sure.
You know what I mean? Like, we've been going star hunting for a while. And, like, What have the stars been able to do? So, like, they go out there. They had Jimmy Butler. He was great, but then they let him go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Al Horford was, oh, no, we're going to get Al Horford. He's going to be a great fit. Al Horford, this and that. He wasn't like a perennial all-star, but he was an all-star caliber player, one of the best ones. Oh, dang, he's not a good fit. Okay, terrible fit. You know what? The 76ers could have had Tyrese Halliburton. They could have had a lot of other people, but they had to go star hunting. They wanted to get James Harden. Yo, we got to go get James Harden. How did that one work out? He called Daryl Morey a liar, said he'd never play for him again, right? So then, guess what? He's here right now, but it's like, yo, we got to get Paul George. We got to get Paul George. Everybody was ready to give a parade. Now the same people are saying, and I like Paul, and I think Paul's a good player, but the same people had unrealistic expectations for him because Paul came here to be the third option, but everybody thought he was going to be Indiana Pacers Paul George, right? They thought he was going to do that. So my thing is, right now, you have an all-star starter in Tyrese Maxey, and you have one of the best rookies out there in VJ Edgecombe, right? A guy who is super explosive, right? One dude told me yesterday that he reminds him of Clyde Drexler. I was about to spit out my coffee when he said that, but then when he talked about it, he says, "No, Keith, look how he glides. Look how long he is, how everything. He's not the best player of all the all-stars or the rookies, but he has a uniqueness about him that fits in perfectly." And he's right. Now, again, I'm not calling him Clyde Drexler, but I'm talking about the attributes, right? The athleticism, all this other stuff. So to me, it's like, if this doesn't work out with Joel and Paul George, just build around them. Don't give up assets like you did in the past. You know what I mean? Don't be the Clippers that gave up SGA for Paul George, and now they're regretting it. You understand? Don't do that, man.
Absolutely.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah, and what you said about the Joel Embiid window, that's not necessarily the Sixers window. I think a lot of people really need to make that differentiation, because I see it the exact same way. The Sixers window is closing. I'm like, well, no. Winning centered around Joel Embiid might be closing. However, I got a lot of faith in Tyrese Maxey continuing to grow and VJ Edgecombe only getting substantially better than what we have seen so far in his rookie season. So I do, if this doesn't end the way we want it to, I do look forward to that next window. I will say that much. When we come back, I want to get into this Coast game last night with the Sacramento Kings. That's the way Paul George put it. We'll talk about that as well as how the Sixers pulled it out after this. This is Locked On 76ers. Like and subscribe. Back after this. How about the FanDuel app? Oh, this is a good time. FanDuel app, especially when you're talking about the Super Bowl. Come on now. Last Sunday of football coming up a week from Sunday. Got one final kickoff going on here. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season and postseason is officially over. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing your favorite, whether you're riding the underdog, whether you're backing the favorite, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everybody's been waiting for, the Super Bowl. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger and bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make Super Bowl Sunday even more exciting when kickoff happens from then to the final whistle. There we go. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Once again, if you're a new customer, bet $5, and if you win, you get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I don't know what happened there for our viewing audience, but for the podcast audience, bing, bing, edit that right out. Thank you very much. Keith, Coast game. That's what Paul George called last night. Now, for those that might have missed the game, the Sixers were down 11 points to the 12-win Sacramento Kings team with 7:44 remaining in the fourth quarter. The Sixers trailed by 11. They never led by more than 8, I believe, in the game. So the Kings were never going away. Paul George, after they pulled it out, they called timeout. They got booed off the floor at that timeout at 7:44. They came back out, and they outscored the Kings the rest of the way, 21-8. Tyrese Maxey had the game winner. But how does a team like the 76ers that had continuously played down to their opponent not go into this game with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder, and even by a team leader say that this was just a coast game? What happened there?
What had happened was, you know what? It's one of those things where everyone knows. You look at it and you say, you know what? This team, we haven't been playing particularly well, but this team is trash. Like they're Malik Monk isn't playing, Keegan Murray isn't playing, Russell Westbrook isn't playing, right? And the other dudes are struggling right now. So you even though everyone says you got to be focused, yeah, it's all about us. It's about us. They were like on cruise control, man. And let's face it, you know, you're looking at how the Sacramento Kings played early on. It was like the Sixers looked like they were going through the motions. Like Joel and them was just doing enough to get buckets, while these guys were coming down, bricking threes and doing all types of other stuff. But the crazy part is, you notice, Mark, it was close. And you look over, and I'm looking at the Sixers like, you know, Nick Nurse and them on the sidelines coaching like it was Game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? Whereas you're looking at the Sixers and they're like, you know, and I do feel like they did try to turn it on, but at that point, Sacramento was like, yo, dog, we lost 6 in a row. We can still win. We can get a victory. But it was bad. And I, you know, it did sound crazy when he said a coast game, but they did look like they were out there coasting for a little bit. You know, they do. They were just doing enough to get by, and they finally turned it on. But it was a bad game, dude. It was a horrible game.
Nurse even said after the game, "Yeah, I feel like we were lucky." Oh, I think you were. They absolutely were. They again struggle in the third quarter. They lose the third quarter. They're outscored by 10 in the third quarter. They're trailing 92-88 going into the fourth. The Sacramento Kings build not just their largest lead, but the largest lead of the game with 11-point lead. And then, like I said, 7:44, Nurse calls timeout. They start, everyone at the Xfinity Mobile Arena starts booing. They come back out and they handled it. I give them credit. They handled it. They won the game. It shouldn't have been that close. Yes, they were lucky. They needed, first off, the Kings to miss some wide open shots, and they did. Zach LaVine, after being hot, cooled off for a while. Schroeder ended up cooling off as well. They had to have 2 different inbounds plays in the final 5 seconds. And I liked the first one. I loved the last one that did win the game, but just in general, I love that play. But the first inbounds play they had with 5 seconds left ended up getting tipped out of bounds, but they ran something different with Maxey, a V cut and then a screen to get him open at the top of the key, but they couldn't inbound the ball to him. The Kings did a good job of denying the inbounds pass. Then I think they had Oubre inbound, and that was to Embiid with Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt, and they had him run that go route that they've run before. Perfect toss from Embiid. Maxey finishes at the rim for the layup, gets fouled, goes to the line. And I will ask you this, Keith. He missed that free throw on purpose, right?
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said.
Okay, because there looked to be a little conversation between Embiid and Maxey.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, you definitely missed that on purpose.
Yeah, because Embiid didn't want him to miss it on purpose, but Paul George told him to because they Sacramento didn't have any timeouts.
Oh, so okay.
Paul George was like, look, bro, if you make this thing, they're gonna call timeout. I mean, no, if you make this thing, they're going to be able to set up, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be able to set up and do something. But if not, they just have to get it and quickly heave it.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing I'm going to say about this loss. This is the worst team in the league, tied for the worst record. Huh?
This win.
Oh, this win. Yeah. This win. It's
a moral loss. It's a moral loss.
Moral loss. This moral loss. I mean, think about this. Tyrese Maxey has to score 37. Joel has to score. Cameron has to score 40. Joel has to score 37. Maxey had 11 in the fourth. Joel had 10. They scored the final 21 points. And you mean to tell me you needed it looked like that defense that in that last play was atrocious, where Maxey went down there and scored that layup and got fouled. You needed everything to go right for them to beat this team. And the problem is, the lucky thing for them is that the New Orleans Pelicans are going to play the second game of a back-to-back when they come tomorrow. But Zion Williamson, when he is motivated, is a beast. And the 76ers gave up 52 points in the paint to the Sacramento Kings, right? So I'm looking at this like, they need to wake up. Because, Derek Queen is a rookie, and I know Joel's probably going to bully him and do all this other stuff. But Zion normally gets buckets against the Sixers. And when we're seeing a team that only had 2 offensive rebounds, a team that was dominated on the glass, what do you think Zion is going to do? I believe he's like second in the NBA. He's ranked second in the NBA in points in the paint, getting 16.1 a game. So I'm just here to tell you, dude, it could get ugly. And he's ranked 10th in field goal percentage, shooting 58, right? So 58%. So I'm just telling you, man, they need to be ready for tomorrow because this guy, I expect him to have 30, but it could get ugly if they don't come to play. I'm telling you.
I'm with you there, man. And one more thing I want to point out because we both asked for it. Tyrese Maxey, 12 of 18 from the floor last night for 40 points. The only free throw he missed, by the way, he was 12 for 13, was obviously the last one that he took. So maybe that's why Joe wanted him to take it or hit it. So it could be a perfect 13 for 13. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the program. We appreciate you guys. And for those listening on the podcast later, you guys will get the full audio without the mute microphone by me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Hopefully the Sixers carry it through the weekend before they go on the West Coast trip for a 5-game West Coast swing. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta. Make sure you guys are reading and following KeithInquirer.com. Be back with you guys on Monday to break it all down even further. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Locked On 76ers. See you guys Monday.